Welcome back to the channel, everybody. First video on the exhaust. So in the last video, we got the engine installed, we got the clutches installed, Vanguard repower is getting into the home stretch, but you got to make an exhaust. So they just don't make one for this configuration where the muffler bolts up and it keeps it away from all the important parts. So what we're going to do is I got this is a Vanguard exhaust manifold, but it is for a vertical motor. I just felt like it had the right bends and stuff in it for me to kind of adapt and use. I'm going to try to mount this into here, just loosely to start, and then I'm going to start to mark it up to figure out where I'm going to cut everything up. And then I got to hang the other muffler back on here and just, again, the idea here is we're doing plumbing. That's all we're doing is plumbing. So we want to plumb this the right way. I'm taking the bolts out that I left in from the old exhaust manifold, which really wasn't even an exhaust manifold. The old Vanguard had an exhaust, like an actual exhaust on it. I'll show you guys what it looks like. It was this. So this literally just kind of bolted up into the head here. Obviously, that's not going to work for us anymore. So we moved on. Bigger and better things. We are going to try to figure out how to do this with a, we'll call it a repower, or a modified, I guess we'll say, exhaust. Because, why not? Let's make something since we can't buy something. I'm looking for the other gasket here. Is it on? Oh, it's attached still. Okay, so I do have both gaskets still. That's kind of nice. I'm just going to loosely put this in for now. No gaskets, no anything. I just need to see what its orientation is going to be like so that I can start to figure out where my cuts and stuff are going to go. First thing I'm noticing is the oil dipstick. It's in the way. So is there a way to get around that? Yeah, I could move it in here. Man, I bet you it gets pretty hot though. Alright, so we have a problem where the dipstick is. So that's step number one, is how do we make this work with that in the way. Now, one thing we could do would be to extend this out. So we could bring the whole exhaust, that part of the exhaust, further out. It's okay here. It clears all this stuff. It's when this one's touching. It's just right here. So we could cut this here in the inside here and extend it out a little bit. To bring it out here. And that's probably the right answer. But before I do that, let's think about it a little bit. Let me show you guys what I'm thinking. This is totally me fabricating and thinking out loud here. But what I'm thinking is, so the original exhaust came out here and went this way and ran straight along this outer edge and then into the muffler over there. So this one is got, I'm going to lose that bolt. Hold on 1 second. This bolt is going to make a run for it. Thank you. So instead of letting that do that, where it comes out here, I could move this piece over to here so that it'll extend out and then I can just reattach it, kind of like repurpose this T here. I can move that T over to that side and then use it to bring it out. So it would almost mount like that where the T would come out. So yeah, maybe we're going to do that. Let me get some paper out and draw this up and I'll be right back. Alright, so what I did real quick is I just grabbed the old manifold pipe and I hung the exhaust, just laid it back in there. Just to see what I'm working with. Like I said, essentially I just got to get these two tubes to merge and tie into this somehow. So we're not in the right orientation the way it sits right now for anything like that to happen. However, we do have lots of bends to work with that we don't need. We really just need to make sure that we have a stub on here and on here that's going to catch the exhaust coming out. So now that I got this laid back out, let me go and see, let me go draw this up. Because once you start cutting it, obviously everything starts to fall apart if you don't have a good idea. So let me go draw this up and I'll be right back. All right. Once again, I failed to do paper. But what I did do, and I'll take you guys in here, is all that was really holding me up from doing this the way that I originally intended was the dipstick tube. So I just modified it. I bent the tube out and I put a spacer in to move it off down here, which is really just a bolt. And then I had to modify the dipstick itself by cutting a little point on the end of it. Will it focus there? Just took a little bit off of that. You can still read it. The cross hatches and stuff are still there if it'll focus on them. But I needed a little bit of an angle to try to get into the slightly deeper curve it has to go through now. Yeah, you see how it hits? So like that was why I put that little bend on it. And then I was going to take a little more off since I rebent it. But that's essentially how this is going to work. I did have that fit and it does go in. So now I just have to mount the exhaust actually in, like put a couple bolts in, and then cut this out part and rotate it to probably bring it up to meet with a piece of this tube, you know, somewhere out here. I'll join these two together. Let me mount it up and I'll get back and I'll explain what I'm going to do. Okay, I got a couple of nuts or bolts. Let's put this guy kind of in place like we did before. And again, this is really, I mean, I'm trying to film all this stuff just in case someone else does this. There's not a lot of videos that I was able to find where people actually, they talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it and kind of like work on, you know, the figuring it out parts like we're doing here. Because that's what the tough part is when you do something like this. You know, it's easy to just reinstall an engine, especially when it's the right engine. When you don't have the right engine, what are you supposed to do? Well, if you're repowering, you're going to have to do something like this, which means figuring stuff out. So I'm just trying to get this lined up enough to get a bolt in so that I have a kind of an orientation. Ah, dropped it. Oh, I see it. Let me just get some pliers. Be right back. Okay. Got the bolt back. Put it on. I mean, this is about where it'll sit. There's a little clearance here, and this is in, as you guys can see. It does go in. So now I got to figure out, based on this configuration that we have here, if this is going to sit like that, right? Like that's the factory exhaust positioning. I think you guys can see it. Yeah, see it goes down there. So if I'm going to have it like that, I need to somehow connect this tube here to this tube. And I think the way I'm going to do that is a combination of this bend and this bend. I'm going to cut this lower because I want this lower. If you look, this is below the plane. It might just clear, but I'm going to cut a piece out of this to drop this down and swing it this way. And then I'm going to shorten this up to bring it over so that it will go into this. Not necessarily this flange, but into this collar here. And I'm going to weld it up. So let us get cutting. I don't know how to film this, honestly. Like, this is where I struggle, folks. Like, does anybody really want to see this? Me cutting and grinding on all this stuff? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I don't know. Let me get some gloves. I'll leave it going. And leave me a comment. If you're like, turn the camera off. We don't need to see that. Let's see the finished product. Let me know. Gloves. And the cutoff wheel. And let's start to make some things. Like I said, for starters, we're going to cut this off pretty low here. I guess right about here is good because I want to have enough room to weld and I want to take enough out of this. So we're going to cut this off right here. Almost. Got a lot of stuff in here I don't want to hit. Ooh. Again, these are just rough cuts. I'll actually use the chop saw when I get to the point where I'm actually doing this and I'm going to weld them. We're going to bring this out here, so we're going to have to drop it down pretty good. I think if we get it down right at where the curve starts, we're also going to have to change the angle because as you can see right now this point's up, so we're probably going to have to take a pie cut out of here to drop that down and we get it lower. And I don't think this fits in here. Oh, I think if I cut this neck off here, I'll be able to get that and weld around there. And then I'll just have to shorten up this distance in here somewhere to bring it all together. So I think for starters, we're gonna try to get this piece as low as we can, turned around, and I think it's gonna be ended up welded back just straight along itself. I think that's the best way. I mean, I guess I could put a right angle on it and bring it over. I could do that. We could put an angle on it there and bring it over this way. How does that leave us with this? That doesn't really help us too much though, because we almost need to come in a little closer here, because this radius, hopefully you guys can see what I'm pointing at. Let me crank it up a little bit. There we go. This radius is going to be a fixed position. Like this is going to sit over here, somewhere right in here like this when it's bolted to the muffler. Keeps it off of this. I need to make sure that this is going to get to that. So if I do it this way with a pie-shaped cut, I'll be able to bring it over. Although then it's going to get into this. So this is going to have to move out here regardless. All right, so we have that coming back. The muffler needs to be mounted in its mount there. And then this is all cuttable stuff here. We can cut this as many different ways as we want. So what I think we're going to need to do to bring this curve here out, we're going to have to put a bend in this here somewhere. Wherever we shorten it, we'll probably also bend it so that it comes out this way, which then makes my right angle idea actually work a little bit. Let me go see what I have in the metal pile as far as right angles that'll fit this pipe. All right, real quick. Like I said, I had to make this shorter anyway, so I actually went through the trouble of cutting this off so that I could start to estimate how far back I want to move this. Because I have the stump that's going to go in at some point. And again, none of this is going to stay this way. I'm sure you all know that. But I got to see, like, if I can move this flange, that's a little high there. So I have to move it away from this. So if I get it in front of that, it sort of solves my problem. So maybe the answer is we cut this here. And then I can just put it there. And then this can go and grab right into it. Maybe that's the answer. Because I don't need this riser piece here if I'm not coming from down that side. So let me cut this off. That's also going to give us, we have another bend here. It's going to give us another bend here to work with. Because if we put this here, that gives us plenty of room to adapt this to that. And I gotta say, I'm liking the way that looks. It just feels like it's a little high. I think I still got to deal with the fact that it's a little high, and that might be bending. Oh, this isn't really even mounted all that good. I think I have some room to play with here, but I think height's going to become an issue because, again, we want to keep it below this frame rail because that's what the bed sits on. If it gets too close, it's going to end up cooking the underside of the bed, which, I mean, it probably did anyway when this thing was new. I mean, exhaust was always here, right up top like that. But yeah, I think I like that because it's going to allow us, and I may just have to turn this and clock it a little bit, but we'll see. Because you know what, I can rotate it down this way when I weld it. And again, this flange will be gone. It's just going to be a open pipe. But we need to figure out what this angle is going to look like and how we're going to do that and how much of this we need. So I'm going to keep marking it up and be back. Okay, still making progress. So I cut this bend for myself, and if I weld that on here, and obviously I'll have to straighten this out a little bit, but I like the way that it is kind of kicked down right now, and it's, I think, going to be far enough away from this plastic. Man, to putting it up here a little bit. And then I just have to bring the other half of this guy here and line it back up with the pipe here. So this is kind of the configuration we're looking at right now. You know, I got a little bit of work to do, obviously, to trim this up and cut this and fit this, but I wanted you guys to get a look at it as I was making it to see kind of how it's going. So that's how it's going. I'll be back in a minute. All right, we're getting the shape we want. I'm going to just attach this pipe over here so that it's attached to the muffler kind of firmly so that I have the angle that it's going to come up off this muffler flange. I don't want this to be crooked or it'll leak, and that won't be fun. So we're just going to put a couple of bolts in. That'll let me mark everything for welding too, because obviously I'm not going to weld it on this thing. I'm going to take this whole thing off and go make me a manifold. No idea if I'll film that or not. Don't know if anybody needs to watch my booger welding skills in action, but we'll see. So anyway, yeah, this is going to be that angle for sure. Looks like we need to come out a little bit on this one. As you can see, I've left all these slip couplers. That has to be in there. So this is going to be out here like that. That's going to be in there like that. And that, my friends, is going to be our manifold. It's lower than everything. It clears the dipstick tube. Like, we're well below this plane here. I can install the factory heat shield here. I'll have to modify it. It's just a strip of metal. Calling it a heat shield is generous. We're a little close to the dipstick tube, but it's metal. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. You know, I don't have a lot of choice. I kind of have to make this work as I go. I think this is going to be good. So I'm going to mark this up, and I mean, you guys, I'm sure, folks that are watching this much of this know, like, this is really just a matter of drawing marks so that you know where your lineup points are going to be. It's no different than building an exhaust manifold. And then in here, I already have a mark. This has to be very firmly on there, like that, and like that. And then we'll just redo this mark here. So yeah, as long as those all line up, kind of hard to see. I might have to get some marking pen. We'll put 2 on. And this one we'll put 2 on as well. Okay. And that's going to be it. I just got to clean it up, tack it. I'll probably tack it on here, just so that I have it. And yeah, I mean, let me pause it and I'll do that real quick and you guys can see it. Alrighty, so never really welded on the channel before since the channel is so new. What you'll learn quickly is that I am an excellent grinder and only an okay welder. Anybody who's watched any of the bus videos, I welded in the bottom 6 inches all the way around of that entire bus, and it looks fantastic and there's very little Bondo, but that's because I probably burned 1,000 grinding wheels. So feel free to criticize the welding. That's totally fine. I know what I am. But I can do it. I can get the job done, and I really feel like this should be accessible to anybody, this type of work. So hopefully you guys will enjoy watching it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what our wire speed's going to work like for this, but we're just going to burn this one in first. Just enough to hold it, you know? Like, I don't want to go nuts with any of this, because in case I have to redo something. This guy down here. Really important that that actually is on square. Where it's going to go, it's going to be about right about there. I'm going to hold this one while I tack it, I think. Can't really see in here. Need better light. Okay, gonna tack on that, and then final piece, just to tack up here. All right, so in theory, that's an exhaust manifold. Just gonna button this one up down here a little bit better. Yeah, a little thin from where I ground it. Got a little thin in that spot where I ground out. Had a feeling it was going to happen, blew a little hole in it. But this is now one solid manifold. So I'm going to unbolt it. I'm going to weld all the way around it, and then I'll come back and we'll install it. All right. So we're welded up. Like I said, I'll never be accused of being a great welder. This is pre-grinding. I'll I'll grind these down a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy because ultimately it really doesn't matter that much. I just want to be able to get the flux from the flux core wire I used off of there so it holds paint. But yeah, this is a Vanguard converted Mule exhaust manifold. So yeah, that's the exhaust manifold. Okay, exhaust manifold is painted and welded. Here's the finished product. Like I said, I am not a great welder. I'll never claim to be. This tube here ended up with some blowout in it over here too. Like, this is thick enough, but not quite thick perfect everywhere. But it's going to sit in here like this. It's airtight. It's not going to leak. So it just has to be installed. So I figure we'll get this installed, and that will finish up, for the most part, the exhaust piece of our program here. Then I can put the cowling back on, which will have us at the point where it's time to lock down on the electrics. So I have some bolts for this and gaskets. Like I had said before, the gaskets, they're still fine. So we're going to be reusing those. No sense in going after and buying new things we don't need to buy. I don't think there's any specific orientation to these. But let's just make sure. No, they seem like they just kind of go on however I want. Alright. So in an effort to keep things as fully accurate as possible, it was a combination of a crow's foot, one of these little stubbies, and a full-blown wiggler. The struggle is not anything unusual. It's what we all, when you make something, it's not designed all the way out. It really was this here. I'm showing this. I had to bend this piece of tin out of the way to get to the lower bolt in there. There was no other way that I was going to be able to get on that, and I just moved this one out a little bit to get to the bolts. Is that perfect? No. I mean, do I wish I didn't have to do that? Yes, but I literally, there's no access to those bolts otherwise. So in an effort to complete the project, that's what we did. This flange here, I mean, you can see I'm pretty close. I just have a little bit of alignment to tighten up here. There's a gasket on there already. That should seal that up. Plenty of wiggle in the exhaust still. And so we'll get a couple of bolts in there and some nuts. And that should be it for the muffler. I got to paint the actual muffler. I'm sure people are noticing that that's still all rusty. Yep, it is. Haven't gotten there yet. We'll get there in a moment or two. All right, it's a 12. So let's use a 12 on it. Yeah, I have this high temp paint. This is that paint that doesn't actually like fully cure until you run it. So there's really no reason to put fragile paint all over the back part of this exhaust at this point in time. It's easier just to wait until I am closer to being able to start it and get the exhaust hot. And starting it will be probably the next video. Not too much I really have to do outside of starter solenoid. So yeah, that's it for the exhaust. I'm going to button up the heat shielding. Got to bend these guys back into shape after my antics of anticsing. Also got to see what's going to fit here. Like, I'll show you what I'm talking about. None of this is like ultra critical, I don't believe, but as you can see, there's going to be some fitment issues because this pipe is now living where this shrouding used to live. Pretty sure I can get it on. It's just going to require some bending and some farting around. Like, I think if I bend this up out of the way to get started, it should, you know what I'm probably going to have to do is notch this a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to notch it. Because this over here will go right in on this, the front. Yeah, that's going to go right on. Yep. So that'll go on like that. What's nice is this is actually going to serve as kind of a good heat shield too. Hadn't really considered that. But I am going to have to lose this flap. I can tell by looking at this. Like, I'm able to get the other one on okay on this side because it's, and I gotta be careful. This is the throttle. We don't want the throttle getting into this. Again, you know, casualties of war and all. So this one over here is going to go right on, and it will be a nice heat shield to keep the heat off here. This one here, this is living right where the pipe lives now. So there isn't a world where that can go on. There just is there's no room, and it's not really necessary anyway. I mean, it'd be nice to have it over here. I'm going to have to come up with some other way to establish some tightness for that because this is going to vibrate now. So I'm going to probably end up making something for it that will tie it back upwards, maybe up to here. I can go from here to there with a piece just to tighten it up. Just because I don't want this one down here going. That'll make noise for certain. All right, so yeah, I'm going to button that up. There is a heat shield that goes on this exhaust. It's here. I mean, most of it is going to be useless to us now because it pretty much went like this before. You can see how much we have left that we would use. There's very little. But what I might do is I might repurpose this hole and then leave it down there for that. Because it really is just a piece of metal. There's nothing tricky about this thing. And I already have a hole here, so I may as well use it. And I'll get a little bit of a heat shield action out of it. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. So, as always, you know, I try to make these videos as entertaining as possible, and I have been experimenting with fast forwarding through the stuff that I feel like is tedious for me to do, let alone you guys to watch. Drop some comments down there, depending on what you see, if you like it, or if you'd rather me just like do a montage, sort of fast forward with music. Not sure what makes more sense. I've had people tell me different things, but curious what you guys think. And next up is going to be wiring. We'll put a temp fuel system in, and we will try to get this thing fired up and see what works. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.